name is Dr. Kimberly Clark, and I'd like to take this time to welcome you to my research presentation titled The Effects of a Mindfulness Program on Deviant Behavior at the Elementary School Level. So why is this research so important? In today's world, violence dominates our headlines and media coverage. Each time we witness another tragic event, we're left wondering what could have been done differently and what steps might have prevented such devastating outcomes. Amongst our youth, issues like low self-esteem, bullying, victimization, and negative school climates have become far too common and have underscored an urgent need to focus on students' emotional and psychological well-being. And while the need is clear, most school districts have yet to put evidence-based solutions into place. When we think about youth mental health, anxiety and depression stand out as some of the most common challenges our students face today. These conditions don't exist in isolation. Along internalized struggles, we also see externalized behaviors, things like impulsivity and aggression. Mindfulness has been shown to reduce anxiety and depression, making it a valuable tool for supporting mental health. When implemented in schools, especially in classrooms with learning or behavioral challenges, mindfulness programs have led to true improvements. The studies was carried out with this information, a few key components in mind. First, the gap. While there had been strong research showing that mindfulness reduced stress and anxiety and that these emotions were closely tied to deviant and externalized behaviors such as aggression and bullying, very little work had tested mindfulness as a prevention tool in everyday normalized classroom settings. Second, prior research outcomes. Mindfulness had already demonstrated promising results in lowering anxiety and improving self-regulation and reducing stress. Since anxiety and strain were amongst the strongest emotional predictors of deviant behavior in children, it was believed that mindfulness was a strong candidate for use in reducing negative school behaviors. The ultimate trajectory in this study was to determine whether mindfulness could serve as a practical, school-based intervention to decrease aggression and deviant behaviors. Hypothesis 1 was multifaceted. First, it was expected that students who participated in the mindfulness program Calm Classroom would show fewer deviant behaviors compared to those who did not participate. Second, it was anticipated that deviant behaviors would decrease from the pre-intervention to post-intervention stage. The study included a total of 423 students, with 214 in the experimental group and 209 in the control group, with demographic distribution showing a diverse mix of gender, socioeconomic status, and race and ethnicity across both the experimental and control groups. The study was implemented through a structured year-long design. The intervention itself consisted of a scripted mindfulness techniques that were led by teachers twice daily, once in the morning and again before lunch. These short, consistent sessions were chosen from the Calm Classroom manual and delivered in the same way across all classrooms to ensure consistency between groups. At the same time, teachers continued the regular responsibility of tracking student behavior through the district's existing reporting system. In the intervention group, which received the curriculum, it was hypothesized that displayed behaviors would decrease following the program. However, results revealed a statistically significant increase in reported behaviors. Although the effect size was small, the finding was completely unexpected. Findings were similarly disappointing when assessing for changes in behavior between groups based on demographic variables. With this in mind, ANCOVA was chosen to be used for exploratory analysis. ANCOVA was run to determine whether the intervention produced meaningful changes from pre to post intervention once important demographic covariates were accounted for. Pre-intervention analysis had already shown clear disparities. By statistically controlling for those pre-existing differences, ANCOVA allowed the focus to shift onto the true effects of the intervention. Results showed that gender remained a significant predictor after intervention. Specifically, males in the control group demonstrated a marked increase in behavior violations from pre to post intervention. In contrast, in the experimental group, both males and females showed lower post-interventional averages, suggesting that the intervention was associated with a relative reduction in violations over time for both sexes. Taken together, these findings suggest that the intervention had some effect against the escalation of behaviors, particularly amongst males. While the findings of this study offered important insights, they were also accompanied by a number of notable null results. Before concluding that mindfulness-based interventions are ineffective in this context, it's important to consider limitations that may have influenced these outcomes, such as short intervention periods and reliance on consistent behavioral reporting. These limitations help explain why the study may not have produced stronger or more consistent results. Another opportunity lies in the examination of mediating variables. This study controlled for key demographics, but many other factors may have been shaping outcomes, such as classroom climate, student-teacher relationships, and student engagement. Individual differences in temperament, home environment, or mental health could also explain why some students respond while others show little change. Investigating these mediators will help uncover why mindfulness programs succeed in some contexts and not in others, which is critical for tailoring interventions to real-world classrooms. Future research should also expand its measurement strategies. This study relied largely on quantitative counts of behavioral violations, a valuable but narrow window into the student experience. Adding qualitative data through two-tier observation, student self-reports, or even peer perspectives would create a fuller, more human picture of how mindfulness shapes both behavioral and emotional well-being. A mixed method approach, combining numbers with narratives, could reveal subtle but meaningful shifts that aren't visible in behavioral counts alone. If future research can weave these elements together, we would be in a much better position to understand not just whether mindfulness works, but how it works, for whom it works, and under what circumstances. As we arrive at the conclusion of this research journey, let's bring all the pieces together. The study set out to examine whether a structured mindfulness program could reduce deviant behaviors amongst elementary school students. And along the way, we explored not just the overall intervention effect, but also how outcomes varied across demographic components. The bigger picture? The lack of significant results doesn't mean this study failed. It means it taught us where to look next, and it leaves us with an invitation to build on these findings. If you would like to learn more about this research or explore the outcomes in depth, please feel free to reach out to me by email at clark.kimberlyw@gmail.com. Thank you for joining me today.